Okay, we're here with school board member running for reelection, Laurie Lieberman. Thanks so much for joining us, Laurie. Do you want to just tell us about yourself and why you're running for reelection?
Sure. Um, as you all know, I've been on the board for a little over 15 years. It'll be 16 when this term concludes. I thought a lot about whether I want to run one last time or not, and I decided to do so because we're in the middle of a lot of things. We probably always will be, but I care deeply about what I do. I care deeply about being on a public school board and about public education in general. We have two people on the board who have now are about to complete one term, who are fortunately running for reelection. We have other people who are going to probably not run next time. And then we obviously have the seat vacated by Richard. And so we will have a new person, a young person, whoever that may be. And so I guess I think the board is well served by having people who have experience and institutional knowledge while also bringing on new people and transitioning. So I'm hopeful that I can help everyone navigate that. I work well with all kinds of people. I'm a good team player. And I have a lot of background with this district, and then, of course, my legal background, which I think offers something valuable to the school district that others don't have. So I guess I could start there because I don't want to talk for 20 minutes about myself.
Okay, thanks, Laurie. So let me start on the issue of artificial turf. Thank you for a few days ago. The board took the vote to have a study at the grass pilot at Franklin and the moratorium on turf in the meantime. So thank you for doing that. Thanks for following that request. But the resolution also articulates a long-term vision of moving away from artificial turf toward natural, sustainable playing surfaces, while also, of course, preserving the access, recreational access. So, looking beyond the immediate actions from this past week, do you personally share that long-term vision? And if so, what would you see if the pilot is successful at Franklin being the next steps to take?
Well, first of all, what we didn't finish the other night, which I do think is important, is on projects that are ongoing, moving forward. We didn't establish what new spaces, how exactly they're planned. I think that the default position going forward ought to be grass in these various outdoor learning spaces and other things, unless there's a safety reason or some reason like the reason people do indoor turf, because there's no sun and they can't grow grass. There are reasons in certain cases that's going to come back to the board, but I do think the default position for those kinds of things ought to be grass. And I think looking back to where we already have turf, um, we'll have to discuss when and what has been put in like that. But if you mean the middle and high school fields, I do think the context for all of this, as you all have probably been through a lot, is that we don't have enough fields in the city and that the school district fills in for parks, which is not the case everywhere. And so what we have to figure out somehow is how we meet the goals of providing the space for kids and adults to be active and of course being environmentally sensitive and putting in grass as much as we're able to get away with it. Um, at the current time, the existing turf fields, none of them are crumb rubber, and if they get replaced with turf, artificial turf, sorry, they will be whatever is the state of the art, and they will be because somehow the data shows that there aren't enough fields to allow for people to play on them without doing that. So I guess it's a long-winded way of saying if we can get to grass, I think everyone would, I won't speak for everyone. I would prefer grass, and I think most people I know would probably do that. The only reason we don't have a program that's about we love turf. The only reason those artificial turf fields, I think, came into play was because there weren't enough spaces that could be kept up, maintained, and be safe for enough people to be able to play. So I do think the middle and high schools pose a slightly different problem. They're used all the time, day and night, all weekend long, more so than the elementary schools. So it's going to be a process, but I certainly feel like it's an open process, and we're going to have to look at data and hopefully find some more spaces.
Do you agree that a play space or learning space that the surface is 140 degrees is inappropriate for anybody under 18 to be on?
I think one of the things we're going to be looking at in the study is really we're going to take temperature readings everywhere where there are grass, asphalt, turf, any surfaces that kids are going to come in contact with.
Yeah.
So does that sound crazy to me in terms of being a number? I know it was raised the other night. It does. Some of us, some of you probably grew up when I can tell you at elementary school, I grew up on asphalt. There was no grass, there was no such thing, I don't think, as artificial turf. Those things got hot, but we mostly didn't touch them. So I do think we need to know that, and I absolutely think when you give a number like that, you go, whoa, we need to find out if that's real, because that's sounds crazy.
Okay. Thanks for discussing it. Let's open it up to some other people's questions. Okay, Isabel.
I'll ask a question. So, Lori, I know you said you have a long-term commitment to closing what we often talk about in education, the achievement and opportunity gap. Having been on the board and with the schools for 15 years, how do you think our Santa Monica schools have done on that? And what do you think we could do more in that direction?
It's an ongoing challenge here and everywhere. And so I think we have to keep looking at what is the current state of research and new approaches while building on approaches we have that seem to work. So I think, our teachers are working hard now to do with, as they would say, fidelity, to implement multi-tiered structures of support. So we need the first line of large classroom learning to be done as well as possible. And we've got to have targeted for smaller groups of kids who aren't mastering materials. We have to work with them. That's the second level of support. And then the third is individual one-on-one. We've got to do that. We have, um, we will continue to be, and we have been, I think, in implementing more culturally relevant, student-centered approaches to learning, project-based learning, which we hope will engage more students, especially those who maybe aren't engaged by traditional classroom learning. When Pedro Noguera came and did his equity audit, his biggest focus was really the biggest thing you can do for all kids, those who have been unsuccessful or marginalized and those who are, is to look to engage them, to get them involved in hands-on learning and things that really interest them, engage them in what do they want to learn about? How can they participate in their own learning? So I think the district has really approached that in a very open and positive way because I think people are seeing that that is helpful. Is it magic? No. Um, a lot of some of the things that affect kids are not things that are within the district's control, unfortunately, but we all know that. Um, I would say that we continue to have programs like Avid, Young Collegians for older kids. We continue to evaluate programs. Our ELD programs went through a big overhaul. And in fact, we have reclassified a lot more students in the last several years than we did before because we've been doing a better job. When I say we, that's really the people who run the programs, that's the teachers, that's not the board. Um, and so it really involves also inspiring our teachers and our staff. to want to do better, to work together, to meet the needs of all kids, especially those who aren't going to get what some kids are going to get at home or with paid tutors. Um, so I mean, I guess the long answer is it's a long and ongoing haul, but I do think that the district is serious and has been doing a good job in that arena. But again,
I'm wondering if you have any more specifics on, you're talking about efforts and things that are going on of of measuring this. You know, do you take the temperature now and then to see, well, how are we doing? You mentioned reclassifying, so that's one way. Are there any other ways that you monitor, like how you're doing on this?
well, I know one of the other Dem Club questions was about, well, how do you assess achievement and what are the different ways? And so I would say one of the things the district has moved in the direction of is formative assessments, which are ongoing assessments to determine whether students are in fact mastering what they're supposed to, seeing what certain kids, individuals, or groups of kids are not getting. And then teachers can talk about that with each other and then work with those kids, whichever those kids are, to help. But we're you can't. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer your question, but we measure in different ways. I think we have more, even from an early age, more group projects where kids are able to work with each other, help each other. Um, they're assessed in terms of how they work together on group projects. Kids are given kinds of things that we were never given. When I was a kid, we didn't do a lot of presentation. It was much more rote learning. Kids are much more from an early age and definitely later making presentations, getting verbal and oral skills, honing them.
Mhm.
Um, I, I've seen these kids in high school that are mind-blowing at how they are. They're better than most adults I know of
Mhm.
presenting things now. So, kids are judged in different ways, assessed in different ways. We have different sort of portfolios for assessing how are they doing, what progress are they making. I hope that answers you to some extent. And of course, we still have year-end testing because we have to do that. It's the only way you can compare to other districts. And of course, you have to, whether we like it or not, colleges are now bringing back ACTs and SATs. So kids have to be able to know how to take those and how to succeed on those, because they went away, but now they're back. So,
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Well, let's go to Kay.
Hi.
okay.
Um, Hi. So my question is, can you talk a little bit about how sex ed is done in the schools and just yeah, that I guess that's just my question.
That's an interesting question. It's done in the context of health education, and I it's introduced first in middle school and then in high school. Um, Planned Parenthood has contracted with the district in the past to help work with us on that. Um, we mostly haven't had a lot of pushback on that. I laugh because when I think about it, it's the one thing I remember vividly my mother going to my high school and protesting the fact that people didn't want sex education in the high school. So eh, there are places I'm sure that don't do it and don't do it very well. Um, but yeah, we do provide it and we know that it's important.
Thanks. I don't think we asked that in the questionnaire. Maybe I'm
No,
missing.
it's probably one of the only things that wasn't asked.
Right. We'll add it next year. Okay. Anybody else? Keith.
Hey there, Laurie. How are you doing?
I'm well, how are you?
Hey, good. It's good to see you. So I was curious from kind of your perspective, and then also I would say maybe the district's perspective. AI is um, kind of the flavor of at least the last couple of years. And there's a lot of, I would say, rumors. There's a need to kind of demystify, what these LLMs are about and what they're doing. It's not all dystopian. It's not all going to subsume and completely hamper critical thinking. And as a matter of fact, some suggest that it's not really artificial intelligence, it's actually co-intelligence. And so I'm curious, how maybe the district is looking at those concepts of how it actually can augment human potential versus the other narrative, which is, kind of put a hand up and keep it out of the classroom. So, can you speak to that kind of co-intelligence or how it can actually augment human potential in that fashion and how the district may be looking at that?
Um, I what I will say is that I think, like other districts, I want to say in a way we're behind, except that we're not. The problem is, as you know, it's all uh, growing, and districts aren't prepared and haven't been given sufficient guidance, education, or anything in how to grapple with, understand what is out there, what is available. I bet you, Keith, for instance, are way more literate in this arena than most people are. Um, I take from your question um, something that I share, which is we've got to understand this well enough to understand where it's dangerous and where things are need to be regulated and controlled, and where there are opportunities that are not dangerous and can help us. And there is not enough known about any of this, not enough understood, and people are sort of lining up in camps all over the place. Um, we just began a working group that's going to try to make recommendations to the school board. The group has 50 people in it, representatives from every school, and it's being facilitated by people from LACO. And the endeavor is to talk about not just AI, but clearly AI and other tech issues, and at what grade level to introduce what, where to not have any of it. Um, but it's obviously an incredibly difficult and important issue. To me, I think it's the most important issue that it confronts schools now. And there's very little guidance from anywhere. The PTA, one of our teachers who used to teach at Samuel High, now teaches in Malibu, she and a PTA president put together a resolution that then was adopted by the state PTA, seeking both identifying things that need to be addressed and also seeking guidance. But when that's going to come from anywhere, it's a little bit like COVID, where we got no guidance and every school district was kind of on their own, putting together their own package uh, of answers. Um, so although this isn't going to go away like COVID, it's not, which hasn't completely gone away, but the things we had to confront changed a lot. So I don't have a great answer other than to say I hear what you're saying and I agree with it. And I know my own limits. I know I don't know enough to say to answer you, for instance, how can we use it in a co-intelligent way? But I know enough to know that there have to be ways, and that we have to equip students when they graduate to know enough to be able to get jobs in the world that exists that we don't even know what they are yet, and to be literate. And yet we need them to start by learning how to learn and knowing how to do things and be critical thinkers without the help of AI. So it's obviously an incredible challenge. Again, I think it's the biggest challenge to not just our district, but to public educate or to all education, really, in public or private.
I'm going to just quickly pop in. You said this group was headed by LACO. Can you tell us what LACO
Oh,
is?
it's a district group at LACO. They hired LACO to
What is LACO?
oh, I'm sorry, the Los Angeles County Office of Education,
Okay, thank you.
who is working probably, I assume, with other districts, and they have an ed tech department. apologize for that. I can't stand when people use all these little acronyms in education, which is all the time.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Oh, are
Well,
you
thanks, Laurie.
okay? Sean?
Hi, Laurie. Thanks for being with us. I wanted to ask you about enrollment numbers. Overall, it seems like there's been declines in enrollment in public schools in California. You note that it's somewhat stabilized in Santa Monica, but
yeah.
what can be done to kind of address enrollment to make sure that it continues to be stable or perhaps expands? And to what extent do you think housing affordability for families in Santa Monica
And you just
impacts
answered,
enrollment?
you just gave a preview of part of what I would say because I would say, I mean, obviously one of the factors in declining enrollment throughout the state and even the country is the decline in birth rates. And then more recently, the obnoxious immigration policies that exist, um, and the fact that some people are scared for their kids to go to school. Um, but the other is affordability and the fact that in many places, and certainly our city and Malibu, who has virtually no affordable housing, um, don't have enough housing that's really conducive to families moving in. And so to that extent, it's a huge problem. And so more housing that is family friendly and affordable for families is going to play a role ultimately everywhere. But again, and I do think the addition of a new grade level may be part of what's stabilized enrollment here and in some other places, TK, transitional kindergarten. Um, but yes, housing is a huge issue, and it's the only one we can't control birth rates, but housing can be controlled in this state and this town.
Do you perceive there's a loss in Santa Monica to private schools, or is there a pretty good adoption in our city of the public school system?
I don't think there's that much of a going to, I mean, there have always been people in private schools and there always will be, but the private schools have lost enrollment too, um, for some of the same reasons, to speak nothing of how incredibly costly they are now. So to the extent we can provide strong, high quality public education, I think anybody would be crazy. Unless they, I mean, there are reasons people send their kids to private schools and good reasons, but if they, unless they can afford it and have reasons to do it, especially in elementary school, I don't know why people, if they're here and or can qualify for a permit, because they work here, or I don't know why anyone wouldn't go to our public schools.
Okay, last question goes to Marcy.
I was wondering how AI meshes with issues of cheating and plagiarism, as well as whether we're have programs to teach kids about how to identify what is true and what is false.
Yes, great question. I think we know that cheating is an issue. Everybody knows that, and you've seen these articles all over about how even colleges are now going back to handwritten exams and blue books. And at the moment, I don't know how that's going to fare, but I think it's becoming more and more real because it's the only obvious and easy way to make sure people either aren't cheating or also understand what they're learning and know what the answers are and can write them. Um, you said something, what did you say? Cheating, plagiarism? Oh, and understanding what is real and unreal, which I think is a huge problem and something I don't think we've done a good enough job at. We talk about it a lot. Some teachers work on it, but we need to, I think, develop very intentional and well done programs that everyone, whether it's in a certain grade level, whether it's in English, whether it's in history, wherever it is, that it lands, maybe it's in freshman seminar, understanding how to determine what's fake and what's real and what's uh, from what source you're getting something is a key skill that students and adults really don't have enough facility with. So I think that's a really, really key need and something we need to do more about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us, Laurie. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for all that you do.
Thanks. Have a good evening.